It's funny, the venue in Brisbane's like opening soon. I haven't seen it for nearly a month now.
Wow.
So everybody else is like, wow, this place is amazing. And I'm one of the owners and I'm going, yeah, it looks good. I just love it. It's the only thing that I do that, even though it's insanely busy, it just doesn't feel like work. Vintage is something else. It's never smooth sailing. I just continue to find the whole process fascinating, like it's just grapes. And then you do your thing to them and they turn out to be this beverage that's just, there's so much that goes into a glass of wine. There's still so much sort of magic in it for me. And after 20 years or something, I think that's, I take that as clear a sign as I'm ever going to get that I'm doing the thing that I should be doing. Yeah, this year I'm making a heap of new varieties that I've never worked with. That's one of the great things about City Winery and Gerler wines for me is that I'm going to try and keep that going forward, make new varieties all the time. When you're coming up with the wine that you want to make, you form an idea in your head of how you're going to make it, what you want to do, what you want to try. And sometimes the creative decisions that you want to make just can't happen. So you have to just roll with it. You start out with the best intentions, but it's time constraints or space to ferment things in, or time is a big one, especially when I'm on my own. I have to be mindful of not doing anything that's too time consuming because then I'll neglect the basics on the other wine. It's nice and cool under there still. My hands. I don't use a plunger to plunge my reds, I use my hands. Not for any reason really, other than I don't have a plunger. You certainly notice when you injure your hand, like how much of a nuisance it is. Yeah, I'd hate to try and do vintage with a broken finger or something. Typically at vintage, very first thing I'll do is pump over the reds and plunge the reds because they've sat all night with the skins on top, so you've got to go and wet them. I always plan to go and do pump overs and then go home and have breakfast, but it always ends up being no breakfast and you have lunch or just food whenever you can, because everything's kind of urgent, everything's time sensitive. So when you've got adrenaline going, you don't really think about yourself. You just get on with the job, and I think that's what makes it so easy to work the long hours, is that they just blend into one another, and you never look at your clock, unless the only time I look at my watch is to make sure I get to the supermarket to buy groceries before they shut. Vintage 19 in South Australia will definitely be remembered as one that hurt everybody. The growers, they put so much time and money and care into growing the fruit, and then to end up just through conditions that are beyond their control, they end up with half of the normal crop or less. It's cost them the same to grow that paddock worth of fruit, and if they end up with half the revenue, then that sucks. It makes it difficult for us to try to make enough wine as well. All of our estimates on, when I locked in fruit contracts, it was based on normal yields. They were expecting them to be down a bit, but some of the yields have been coming in 60–70% down. And that sort of trickles down to everybody. I've got less wine to sell, which means less revenue for us. But it also means that, it might put the nail in the coffin for some growers. They might not be able to withstand that. The prediction is that this year is going to be an even worse drought, so it's just diabolical. It makes it difficult as well from a planning point of view with, buying oak and buying or renting tanks or buying extra equipment that you think you might need and then you don't need. It really affects the logistics a lot. The most difficult part was that because the yields were lower and canopies are fairly healthy and we had that crazy spell of hot weather, everything's ready at once. So, there were, I can't even remember what date it was, but there was like a 10-day period in this vintage where I was getting like 2 hours sleep because I'm doing my own freight. So I'd take the truck, be there at dawn for the pick, get the fruit, bring it back. So I've already done like a full shift as a truck driver, and then I've got to come back and make wine. And there's too much going on at once. I actually got my eldest son down to help me in the cellar, help me as my cellar hand, which was heaps of fun. And he really took the pressure off because, there's all this, I guess what you could call unskilled work that you have to do, cleaning, pumping over, all this sort of stuff that really just takes time, that takes me away from keeping a close eye on the wines. The style of winemaking that I want to aim for is something that's approachable, and ideally, like the wine that epitomises it for me right now is our 17 Grenache, because people love it. It's very easy to drink, but if you want to find more in the wine, you can look for it and find it. It's a lot more complex than it first seems. And they're the wines that I really enjoy drinking, and they're the ones that I think other people enjoy drinking. They lend themselves to lots of different situations because you can just smash it down if you want to, or you can sit and think about it and talk about it. And a wine like that also changes a lot. You could have a glass, and then by the time you get to the bottom of the glass, it tastes very different from when you first poured it. And an open bottle on day 2 or 3 or 4 tastes very different. And I think that ticks boxes for me because I want to be able to make wines that people enjoy drinking, but also that the more serious consumer can find something there as well. I just want to keep learning and never stop learning. I never know if I've got an undiscovered secret in the process,